Breaking news on Iran in this question of who the United States is negotiating with. Also, that Kuwaiti supertanker now burning off Dubai. We're joined by CNN Global Affairs analyst Brett McGurk, who has served in senior national security posts under the last 4 presidents, and retired Army Brigadier General Mark Kimmett. And Brett, let me just start with you. Actually, General, let me start with you because I want to ask about the Kuwaiti oil tanker, as we're still getting new information that it is on fire off the coast of Dubai. General, how concerning is that?
Well, it's very concerning. It indicates that the air defense systems that we have in the region aren't covering some of the most critical assets we have. Now, having said that, this is about the 13th tanker that's been hit since the beginning of the war of the 22 commercial ships that have been hit since February 28th. We should expect more of this. I don't think we can defend all of them. It will certainly make it harder for those ships to pass and get the insurance companies to support them if they're constantly getting hit.
So, Brett, the CNN reporting tonight is that inside the Trump administration, they're not even sure that the Iranians that they're negotiating with, albeit indirectly, have the power to make actual decisions if they're the right people. You've been involved in high-level negotiations basically your entire adult life. How unusual is this? Have you been in negotiations not being sure if you're talking to the right people?
I wish I could say it's totally unusual, but look, in this circumstance, we don't really know who's in charge in Tehran. So this is like completely unprecedented. I'm sure our analysts who know Iran so well are trying to figure out what's happening. But, you know, John, think about even when Supreme Leader Khamenei, who was killed in the beginning of this, was in charge, they still have a somewhat of a collective decision-making apparatus. And on big decisions, very hard for one person to say this is how it's going to be. And I suspect in Tehran right now, you know, these messages going back and forth have caused a debate. There's probably fractures. And what the Trump administration is asking Iran to do, and they have a set of reasonable asks, particularly on the nuclear program, give up your enrichment program, which has been a demand for some time, Iran has never agreed to do that. So if they were, John, to come in with a new position and say, actually, we're going to accept what the Americans are asking for, we want to have a ceasefire, sanctions relief, that's going to be a huge decision in their system. And I don't think anyone right now in Tehran is powerful enough to really make that decision fast. I say one more thing, negotiating with the Iranians, nothing is ever fast. It takes time. They deliberate. You know, they have this process they go through. They always demand one change or another. And that's when they had a system that you could somewhat predict. So even more confusing now. So, yeah, it's going to be hard to get a quick outcome here.
So, General Kimmett, when you see the president threatening, you know, he put out this statement this morning. On the one hand, he said that talks are making great progress. On the other hand, he threatened to hit Iran's energy infrastructure and also potentially desalination plants. So, in your opinion, would hitting these facilities that provide millions of civilians with power and fresh water, would hitting them constitute a war crime?
Well, it certainly would be against international law that we don't necessarily adhere to. I think if we take a look at history, going against these kind of facilities is not unusual in American bombing campaigns in the past. That has changed since the Geneva Conventions have been updated. But even as recently as the bombing of Haiphong Harbor and Hanoi during the Vietnam War, we didn't hold back at all. So it would not be unprecedented. It would not be unusual. I'll leave it to the lawyers to define whether it's a violation of international law or a war crime.
Do you think it'd be useful from a military standpoint?
Not at this point. I think we've still got a lot of negotiating that can be done. I think there's a lot of fighting that can be done without having to go against those targets.
So, Brett, this morning again in the president's social media post, he singled out the Strait of Hormuz, reopening it as a key objective. But at least in this post, he didn't call out removing Iran's enriched uranium. So has the Strait, which was not initially one of the objectives of the war, do you feel that the Hormuz Strait has become the top military objective for the administration?
John, it's hard to see how this ends if Iran is controlling the Strait of Hormuz and to say that that's been a strategic gain for the United States. I think it's good if we're taking out their missiles, their drones, their Air Force, their Navy, their power projection. But the Strait of Hormuz is the artery of the global economy, and here Iran is demonstrating that it can basically control it. And if you step back even further, John, and connect this to Russia and Ukraine and these Shahid drones, which we dealt with against our forces for years, they can travel about 1,000. Some of them can travel longer than 1,000 miles. They're very hard to find. Iran has proliferated the technology to Russia. That's how Russia is sustaining its war in Ukraine. The Houthis in Yemen shot these things at tankers back in 2023, 2024, shut down the Red Sea. This is like a hybrid warfare terrorism, and it is the future, and it's upon us. And so that's what Iran is doing. And now that means that it is a very good thing if we can actually, take apart Iran's defense industrial base, its ability to produce these things, these drones, these missiles. But they have a lot of them. They're using them. They're proliferating them. And the tactics are very similar to what Russia's doing in Ukraine, just firing these things off at civilian targets. And a tanker is a definition of a civilian asset. It's not a military asset.
So, General, President Trump told the Financial Times this morning that his, quote, preference would be to take the oil from Iran, end quote, potentially with a seizure of Karg Island. What kind of troop levels and material do you think would be required to take Iran's oil by force? And, there are 50,000 troops in the region, about 10,000 more than normal. Is that the right amount?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think we've got to make sure we've got the terminology right. Is he talking about taking it in terms of keeping it and selling it, or is he talking about controlling it? Candidly, I think that Karg Island is fairly easy to control. It doesn't require ground troops. It just requires us turning off the electricity on that island so the tankers don't have the ability to have the oil pumped into them. It's actually a fairly fragile infrastructure. It isn't something that needs to be destroyed to control it. It doesn't need to be anything more than cutting off the electricity so the oil can't get pumped into the tankers so that it can be quickly reversed at some time in the future, whether that's through a bomb or whether that's through a cyber attack. I think it's entirely plausible. It can certainly stop any expectation that they're going to put ground troops on there, because that would be a tough fight.
Brett, we have a complicated question with only about 30 seconds left, but how satisfied do you think the Gulf states are at this point with what the United States is doing?
I'll try to be brief, John. They did not want this war, but once it started and they came under attack, they do not want to be left with an Iran that is wounded and angry and still lethal. So they want to see it through.
Yeah, which again makes all of what's happening right now complicated with these perhaps indirect negotiations that are taking place with Iranians who may or may not have the power to make decisions. Brett McGurk, General Mark Kimmick, great to see both of you. Thank you so much.